exciting buzz to start taking your seats? Yes, 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 yes. For those of you who were with us last night, you'll notice I'm trying to adopt what I learned about Professor Abdul Aziz Saeed, who we just launched his inaugural chair yesterday, who apparently our founder of peacekeeping at SIS would start to calm people down by just with a series of yes, 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 yes. So it's with that spirit. I am just so thrilled to welcome you all here to American University and the School of International Service. I'm Shannon Hayter. I'm the Dean of the School of International Service. And we are so incredibly excited to launch this new partnership with Football for Peace. So big hand for all of you for being here. A special welcome to our many distinguished guests, and it strikes fear in my heart I might miss one or another of the guests, but I'm going to do my best. We have a bunch of distinguished guests who come from federal and state governments, from multilateral leadership organizations, from professional sports, from diplomatic corps, as well as members of our AU President's Cabinet. Raise your hand if you're on our American University President's Cabinet. And Board of Trustees. Let's include our Board of Trustees members there. Thank you. Welcome to our American University faculty and staff and students and alumni. Welcome to our SIS Advisory Board members who just had to sit through their biannual board meeting in order to have the treat of coming to this launch here. So thank you for being here. And, you know, just to reflect, one of the most exciting elements of my job here as Dean of SIS is the ability to cultivate new partnerships that bring us a sense of mission, that bring our SIS community of students and faculty and alumni into contact with community leaders from around the world who share many of our mission and just really give us a chance to provide opportunities to leverage our insights, our talents, our commitments for the larger community. For those of you who might be your first time here at the School of International Service, we have a founding legacy. We were founded in 1957, and which was 10 years into the Cold War, and given the charge by President Eisenhower at the groundbreaking to wage peace, under the concept that peace is not just the absence of war. It is the positive actions we take daily to improve the human condition. And so if you know that history of us, as you learn about Football for Peace, if you don't know about it already, I think you'll see where the synergies of this partnership really come from. And really, it was one of our esteemed alumni, Shahal Khan, who is here today. Shahal, are you in the room, I hope? All right, there he is. And your wife, wonderful wife. So when Shahal approached us at SIS with the opportunity to partner on a sports diplomacy project that was centered on peace and service, we just thought there was no way to not say yes, yes, now, when, let's go, because it's such an exciting and excellent match. Discussions then with the co-founder of Football for Peace, Kash Siddiqi, who is here. Kash is right next to Shahal. Affirmed our belief that a peace center at SIS, bringing collaboration on areas of shared passion and expertise, would be a fantastic way to educate and empower our students to be effective change makers in this world. So with this partnership, our students and faculty and alumni will help launch Football for Peace's programming in the U.S. We are particularly excited by Football for Peace's Rehydrating the Earth campaign, which I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about today, because, you know, here at SIS, we have some of the leaders in water justice as a scholarship, as a discipline, as a policy element, as an advocacy area. And so that campaign aligns so well with our expertise in water and climate justice and rights that, again, it's a no-brainer. The potential for our students to be able to collaborate on projects, on graduate research, on practicums is all very exciting. And the ability to use the lens of the convening power of sports at local, at regional, at national, at multinational level is just something that we look forward to celebrating more. So thank you again for celebrating with us. I hope it will inspire you to think about how you will all be a part of how this partnership plays out and grows into reality. So at this point, it is my pleasure to introduce one of our first esteemed guests, Brenda Abdelall, the Assistant Secretary of Partnership and Engagement at the Department of Homeland Security. Brenda is a public policy expert who focuses on civil rights and national security. Welcome to the podium. Hello. Good. Oh, actually, is that working? No? Yes. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Congratulations. I'm truly honored to be here with all of you today. I really wanted to give, remarks on behalf of the Secretary of Homeland Security, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, to celebrate American University, the Maryland Sports Commission, and Football for Peace on this critically important, valuable, and exciting partnership. You might be asking yourself, why is the Department of Homeland Security here speaking as it relates to Football for Peace, which I'll get to in a moment. But one thing that the Secretary always says and always champions is that as a department, we are truly a department of partnerships. We could not keep our homeland safe. We could not keep our homeland resilient if it were not for the partnerships that we build on a local level in communities across the country. So we truly value the power of this partnership. But I wanted to take a step back and truly acknowledge that the power of this partnership is also fueled by football and sports. As we know, youth empowerment is so critical in building the foundations of the future of our societies and building safer environments. We are truly at a pivotal time in our country. We see hate crimes on the rise. There's not a weekend goes by where we don't get an alert about a shooting. And oftentimes those are lone offenders that have a range of ideological and personal grievances. Many of those pose a persistent threat in our homeland and specifically to faith communities, LGBTQI communities, and racial and ethnic minorities. But we know the power of sports and the power of football. We know that there's a multitude of diversity, not just in the players, but in the spectators that brings everyone together. And we also recognize that coaches are oftentimes the first line opportunity for youth in shaping our future generation. I'll take a step back and just share a quick anecdote. I have got twin boys, freshmen in high school. One plays football and the other one plays football, but American football. I always have to catch myself which football we're talking about. My son that plays American football, just a few weeks ago during one of the practices, another student said a slur. And the coach immediately stopped the entire team and had them all do 50 burpees, okay? My son came home, legs hurting, couldn't bend down, couldn't sit at the dining room table. I said, what happened? He said, oh, somebody said something really awful and we all had to do the burpees. No one will ever say it again. And he told me that when they went back into the locker room afterwards, the coach sat them all down, gave them a long history about what that slur means and why that should never be used. And I use that as an anecdote because that coach took that opportunity to take a step back and teach that entire team the importance of working together and not self-isolating a student by pushing them out by using a slur, and how to pull everyone into the community of sports and how to pull everyone together as a team. So they got punished as a team as well.
But as that relates to our broader work as the Department of Homeland Security, that's just one anecdote, but we know that that's a seed that's been planted that will hopefully go a long way towards building a community that's safe and resilient. But we also work every day on combating some of the most heinous crimes, child sexual exploitation and abuse. We've been working with sports leagues across the country as we get ready to launch our campaigns to combat really awful crimes. When you hear the secretary, he's so deeply disturbed by the work that our Homeland Security investigations do every day on combating child sexual abuse. And that often impacts young boys that are playing in sports and that are in high schools across the country. So you'll see more from our department through our partnerships with sports and sports leagues. We also have our See Something, Say Something campaign. You see it at stadiums across the country every time there's a big game. And you also see our Blue campaign, which is our human trafficking campaign to combat human trafficking, to know the signs prior to those games. So I know I feel like I've just taken you down a road of doom and gloom, but also identifying that that's part of my job, but also to share with you all those moments of hope and resilience. And we really look forward to partnering not just with American University, but also with Football for Peace in our commitment to youth development initiatives. We have high school internship programs, our Pathways internships, and other opportunities for experiential learning. And as I had mentioned, we really look forward to deepening and expanding our partnerships in some of our existing campaigns and those to come. So this is just the beginning. Congratulations on this really exciting initiative. This is really an opportunity to shape the future, and we really look forward to expanding and deepening our partnerships with you all. Thank you to Football for Peace for the invitation to join this special launch, and I look forward to a future invitation. Thank you.
Football is not just a game, providing a common interest and a unifying identity. It brings us together in the enjoyment of a simple pastime, without complication, but with plenty of passion.
Great. All right. Okay. Maybe not. All right. Thank you. So without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce the founder of Football for Peace, Kash Siddiqi. Kash is a former football player himself, and has been involved in Football for Peace since 2013 and led the organization through 2 campaigns, Football Saves Lives and Rehydrating the Earth. This is where we start to see some of the folks that were in that fabulous video and hear from them directly. So Kash, please.
Hey guys, I'm going to keep it really, really short because we've got an amazing panel that we want to get into. But thank you, Dean Hayder, for hosting today and welcoming us to your house, and also to the amazing faculty members and the alumni that have made this happen and come here today. But I'd just like to quickly say what's amazing about this, since hearing about AU and American University, everywhere I've been recently, I'm suddenly just bumping into AU alumni. It's like there's some kind of magic wand somewhere going on that suddenly whatever the global takeover is, it's happening from AU and SIS. And thank you. But this is why I think this partnership is so amazing with Football for Peace and what we're trying to achieve, because it just shows the international power And our values align on so many different levels, specifically around service, as you saw some in some of the video, and also diplomacy. And this is something that we've been pushing for many years. But here today, I think the most important thing is the burning question of why football. So I'd just like to put it out there into the crowd. So anyone to answer the question of what makes football so powerful? Anyone? Shahal, any thoughts?
Should I stand up for this one?
Yeah, you need a mic or you're good?
Well, I think it's, you look at it from just keep it simple, two things. Number one, 3 billion people, almost 4, watch football. So numerically, it's massive. The second is, I think football fans are so passionate. I'm not saying anything about NFL jobs. I'm gonna beat me up afterwards, but this is a peace thing, so. But, there's so much passion that runs through the veins and unites everyone globally, so I think it's the perfect platform.
Good answer. Anyone else? Anyone else? Why football? Yeah.
I would say that it just brings people together. It doesn't matter what language you speak, where you're from. It's the sport that brings people together, and no matter how different you are, it's the same everywhere.
No, that's brilliant. I know Al's in the crowd somewhere. Al Gibbets, any thoughts? There you are.
Thank you very much. I think it's another language we all understand, and we put our differences aside and we root for our team and we shake hands and we cry and we cheer, and it brings humanity together. So sport does that, music does that, and we need to tie peace into it for sure.
Definitely. And Al,
Or non-violence, yeah.
sorry, yeah, 100%. And I think from my perspective, it's given myself, Oguchi's here today, Josh, people to, sports enabled us to travel the world and have these experiences. 5 billion people, as you stole my line, Shahal, thanks. 5 billion people is touching. But for us, we've seen teams, fans, leaders, heads of states, tribes in the Amazon, HRH Prince William, and definitely Dean Hayder. We all understand the power of football, the 5 billion people it touches, but not forgetting also the 260 million people that are touched by the Super Bowl alone every year. And that's why we think we're in such a unique position here today in this announcement of actually bringing soccer and football together for the first time for peace in partnership with AU and the Maryland Sports Commission to try and tackle not only, as the Dean mentioned, regional, national, but also international aspects of pressing issues that we're facing, specifically around water. That's one of our key prosperity goals that we're pushing for, and also resilience building. So yeah, very exciting. I think the other thing that's really cool about this partnership is that we're actually engaging and getting knowledge, and we've got an opportunity now to really seek the knowledge of the faculty members. Now, AU has been known for this, and the experience that we can draw from this to make a real difference. Also, the unique thing is engaging students and how we're going to work with them, not only here in the US, but also internationally, and how we can really engage on different multilateral levels, bilaterally, and using soft power and sports diplomacy. And I think for me personally, coming back to the USA, this is really exciting because I actually came here on a soccer scholarship after playing in the UK, and I spent 4 years in the NCAA. And it really gave me an insight onto how Americans think. But you guys are real go-getters. Like there is no walls. And for me, I've just, the American dream does really exist. And that's for me, I've been a huge advocate for that globally. And the other thing to add to this is that there's no secret that my mother's been my inspiration, and everything she's done from her journey as a refugee from Uganda to the UK, and enabled me on this mission of peace and what I like to call hustling for peace. But it's something that stayed with me, and I'm hoping that with the humbleness of what we're trying to achieve, that we grow, as the Secretary mentioned, family values, which is very, very important, and as we go on this journey. But I'd like to keep that really short, but I'd like to say a very special thank you to Shahal, because he has definitely brought this, and I love the way how his brain works and he's connecting dots all over the world. He's flew back especially for this from Abu Dhabi. Lee for making this happen in the background, our steering committee members, and a big thank you to Terry, who's here, the president of the Maryland Sports Commission, who has been championing football for peace for the last 4 years. And it's very exciting because Unfortunately, we didn't get the bid for the FIFA World Cup. However, the World Cup is coming to 2026. It will be here. And this is a great opportunity for us to work with Maryland. We put our flag in the ground already on how we're going to grow this nationwide and internationally. So thank you so much. And I'd like to pass it back to Dean Hayder.
Invite the panelists up, right? Now let's invite the panelists up. You know who you are. Come join us here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Gooch, we'd like to invite you to the stage. So Gooch is coming up. Gooch is a former US men's national team player, but also board member for Sporting, most recently vice president.
You want me to take the mic?
You take the mic. We have Josh, Brenden, of course, Dean Hayder. So we just take the other side?
I'll take the other side.
Okay. And George, thank you for joining us as well.
All right, so this is an exciting group. And because, we just got to start things very calm and non-controversial as you do in peacemaking. My first question to the panelists, one word answers only. All right, just a little breaking the ice. Is it soccer or football?
Both. You gotta stay politically correct, so I'm gonna say both. It depends on your mood of the day. I lived 16 years in Europe, so habitually I call it football until I'm around Americans, and then I have to switch it up real quick and call it soccer.
What country are you in? No, I'm with you though. I'm with you when you say both, because those two meanings, it resonates on both parties. Now the US is starting to get some steam in the MLS and how we're coming with that, and obviously Messi transferring over here into the States. So it's definitely getting to the both part.
Of course, that's the two NFL guys, right? Both, definitely both.
Anyone else down there?
When we say football, I'm going to say football. Way to take a position, right?
All right, Kash, your chance. What do you want to ask these guys?
So I guess let's start with Josh. Josh, you have been actually, Josh, welcome home, because I know Washington was a big thing for you. You're back here, and well, I didn't know this, but I was told, obviously, in the most humblest terms, you signed a very big contract coming from the Panthers to the Commanders. But coming back here, Josh, what do you feel like in regards to some of the philanthropy that you've been doing? Because, before joining Football for Peace, as one of the board members and founding board members, actually, you've been doing philanthropy for many years. And obviously, your inspiration came from many sources. But coming to Washington back, and what do you feel like coming from Greenfield and the philanthropy you've done there to here in connecting that dot?
Well, philanthropy started with me very early as a kid. I remember being in church, probably only had $20 that I got from one of my grandpa's friends. And I remember giving up the whole $20 in the offering plate. That was like when I was like 11. And that really resonated with me. So I knew that at that point that I was going to be a giver regardless. I think coming into the world, that's where I was always. I got 5 brothers and I would give the shirt out the back I had. So it just made me instill that from young age. And then when I went through middle school, high school, and college, got to the pros, first thing I did, guy was just talking and it was like, start this. And I'm like, I don't have the money. I just got to Carolina. And it was like, start this nonprofit no matter what. And I started it. And I used my own funds, which I really, when you get into league, you still get league minimum. And that was probably like 300,000. And I had my family, so they thought you make it big, right? Big contract, but it didn't happen that way. So I started, and ever since then to now, it's been what, 12 years? Kristen Cobson, she's here with us now. She's Stars 24 and our nonprofit. And so we started it for 12 years, and it just became bigger and bigger and bigger. And for us, it's a part of who we are. I think it's our purpose in life is to be a giver, not just to your community, but the world that you can be able to touch. And so that's kind of how we pretty much got involved. And I know 1920, we was talking and we made it official in 2020.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, so how can I touch not just domestically, I want to touch internationally. And I think you guys became that catalyst for us to go international. And it just made sense for the entire thing that we was able to do.
No, I appreciate that. That's brilliant. Dean Head, do you want me to still carry on? Do you want to come in? Shall I go? Do you want to come in or shall I?
Sure, I'll come in. Sorry, I was distracted here. I think I heard you say not Oguchi, but Gooch. Is that what you go by?
Honestly,
Only to friends?
if I showed you my ID, you would not be able to pronounce my full name. So throughout my years, there's been multiple iterations of my name. So Gooch, Gucci.
All right. I'm trying to create a family here, right? So it's a true partnership. So, but my question is for you. You have traveled the world. You have played in France and Belgium and England, Italy, and the Netherlands and Portugal, Spain, the US. You've earned over 60 caps with the US men's national soccer team, including at the 2006 and 2010 World Cups. First question for you.
It's a mouthful.
Oh, it's a lot of work, a lot of success. Can you share an example of when you have witnessed football as an agent of change?
I think in all those countries, and more recently in America, Kash asked the question earlier, why football? And I think it's a universal language, regardless of what country, what continent you're in. And I noticed that leaving university, going to France, going to England, going to Italy, regardless of where you are, what language you speak, the culture is the same, and it's just a different language. And obviously being in America and the sport in itself, soccer or football, is in its infancy, but you can see the urge for it to grow in America and how quickly that is happening. I mean, our league and our professional league hasn't been around for 30 years or 35 years. And the excitement and the energy, as Josh spoke about with Messi, but there's been David Beckham's and been Thierry Henry. There've been multiple stars that have contributed to the growth of the game. And now we have our second World Cup on the fringe in 2026 and what that is going to mean globally and also domestically. So for me, it's a universal language. I remember before I could speak French, my first weeks in France, not knowing how to count to 5 in French, let alone how to say hello or goodbye. And that didn't deter communication on the field. Like everybody understood everybody, regardless of what background language you spoke. And that was a beautiful thing. And I don't think you can find that level of fluidity and communication across. I don't know how many other sports could transpire something like that.
Well, follow up, you have a new role, right? You're VP of Sporting Initiatives for US Soccer. So what impact do you hope to have in the lead up to the World Cup for 2026 then in this new role?
Well, for my new role, obviously it just got created and thank you so much. I've only been in the position for 4 months. So I'm definitely learning a lot and using my history in both administrative and playing to be a catalyst for positive change as we get to the World Cup and beyond. But, we really want to stick to our pillars, our 5 pillars that we've communicated globally, which is, growing the game, fostering the best environments, growing the economic soccer community in America to put reinvestment back into the sport and, having a world-class organization. So for me, that means that US soccer and soccer or football in general in this country has to reflect its market, right? And so for me, diversity, looking at underrepresented communities, being a catalyst for positive growth and change is really vital for me. And it's something that I'm really passionate about, because I am a firm believer that people aspire to be what they see. And so there's a ceiling there. And so I know that myself being in this position is also giving aspirations to younger generations from the Black and brown communities and underrepresented communities to aspire to be like, hey, after I retire, there are avenues outside of coaching. There are avenues outside of media or agency work. You can be a top executive if you put in the work and network with the right people.
And maybe finally, and then I'll hand it back over to Kash, but I want to build on the first set of questions, which is, what has been your motivation for your philanthropy? And your own foundations, what inspired you to join Football for Peace? Connect the dots there for us.
Well, I joined Football for Peace because Kash put me in a headlock like 10 odd years ago.
We call that positive peer pressure.
Reach that headlock.
No, but I met Kash when I was living in England, in London. What was it, over 10 years ago, right? And I would say philanthropy in itself is innate in me. I'm the first generation of Nigerian parents. And when you've grown up in a culture where you go back and you see some of the poverty and some of the access that they don't have, and then you come to America and, we're spoiled and we complain about little things like food, even like rice. You go to certain corners of the world, you give them a bag of rice and it's like they hit the mega millions, and just the little things like that. And for me, it's, if I can use my platform, if I can use my access and my influence to help generate change and growth and positivity within my platform, but also, Football for Peace, when I met Kash, it was a no-brainer. So for me, at any opportunity that can help the next generation, help children more specifically, you don't even have to ask the question, I'm in.
All right, Kash, so the mega questions.
Thank you. George, bring you into the conversation. It'd be good to understand from the NFLPA's perspective, obviously, when we're linking sports, diplomacy, philanthropy, on what the vision is for the PA to be working with players. Regionally, obviously, I know you do a lot of work, but also linking into some of the international elements, and what does that mission look like NFLPA?
Well, over the last 10 years or so, we've had a larger presence as an NFL in general, as a business internationally. We're on the verge of having the first time where teams are playing back-to-back weekends in London, and be heading there next weekend. And I don't know if you had that experience, Josh, if you played in London, but there's a thirst and an appetite for NFL in a way that we haven't seen before internationally. So from the Players Union perspective, it's not going to be a surprise for you to hear that we're all about the athletes, right? And so how do we best position the athletes to take advantage of every single one of those opportunities? And the Assistant Secretary mentioned at the top, it's all about partnerships, which is why we're sitting here today, right? So we've also developed partnerships across other sports unions and nascent sports unions. Got to give a shout out to my man Fo, who's here. Can we just take a pause and recognize greatness? Whether it's tennis or football, we certainly want to be a part of those conversations to support the athletes, because the one thing that we know cuts across, and why I think we're on this room, and you mentioned it at the top, we're really talking about common values. So the values are what makes us valuable. Hard work, perseverance, resiliency, trust, overcoming adversity. All of those values that you see the tremendous athletes on the field take up every single time they put a uniform on, or on the practice field when you don't see it, those are things I think we all want to be a part of. So I think that's really the effort that we want to push forth, why we're here today, and why we believe in the mission that you guys are pushing for.
My turn, or do you have a follow-up first?
You can go.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to turn it to the United Nations a little bit. I just finished a stint at the United Nations, so we are very glad to have Brenden here. Brenden, you have a current role here in DC, and you've worked as a political affairs officer covering the Americas, the Middle East, the Horn of Africa, and Southern Africa. Tell us a little bit more about what you do and how that connects to Football for Peace, but especially how have you seen sports diplomacy play a role in these communities, and how does the UN view the role of sports diplomacy in advancing its global mission?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. And first of all, just to note that I'm very conscious of the fact that our panel is all male right now, and football for me is so much bigger than that. So I wish there was more women up here on the panel with us to make this more diverse, more representative of our world. But thank you, Dean Hayter, for being here. I'm so glad that we do have a woman up here with us. So about sports and diplomacy, I mean, one of the things that I've seen in the field at the UN, when I was based in Kosovo in 2014, I really saw that you know, here was a community, a post-conflict society where you had a lot of animosity, and there still is animosity between different groups, especially Kosovo Albanians and Kosovo Serbs. And you may have seen in the news recently, this has not gone away. But what I was really happy to be a part of in 2014 was an initiative to hold football games or football matches that brought together Kosovo Albanian and Kosovo Serb youth. And I remember being at one of these matches, and you had these children who lived maybe 20 minutes away from each other by car, but they never interact with each other. They had their own media, their own languages. They just didn't see each other as people. They saw each other as members of the opposite group, the opposing group. And so I remember being there in 2014 in a village in the interior of tiny Kosovo, and seeing these children play together, play football together, and they learned about each other. They saw the humanity in each other. I think that was really something special that the UN always tries to promote, and that our office was promoting in Kosovo then. And to go to one more K place, I'm just going to talk about Korea really quickly. And I'm actually here with our intern, who's also Korean, worked at the Pyeongchang Olympics in 2018. I also went to the Pyeongchang Olympics in 2018 as part of the delegation of the president of the General Assembly of the UN. We were invited there because of the strong connections between the UN and the Olympics. And it was so inspiring to see the unified Korean team march together under a common flag. And at the UN, we believe a lot in dialogue and diplomacy. If people are on the sports field together, it means they're not on the battlefield, they're not fighting. Sports and football in particular, that's a way to bring people together. And so I think, you know, between these two examples, that kind of shows the commitment that the UN has to sports and peace for development. And every year, every time the Olympics rolls around, the UN General Assembly, which involves all the countries of the UN, comes together and adopts a resolution about the Olympic truce, where it urges all countries, all warring parties throughout the world, to put down their weapons while the Olympics are going on, because this is a time to focus on sports, peace, development, and our common humanity, as opposed to our differences.
And one more thing, can you tell us all a little bit about the UN initiative Football for the Goals and its relationship to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals?
Absolutely. Football for the Goals is an initiative that the UN came up with a little over a year ago, and has around 250 members in 80 countries. And these members are football associations, clubs, teams, coaches, players, fan groups. And basically it's a way to, first of all, capitalize on the amazing reach that football has. You all reach so many more people than the UN can, ironically, millions of more followers. It's a way to kind of get the word out about the Sustainable Development Goals. Have people here heard of the SDGs? Can you raise your hand if you've heard of the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals? That's incredible, because a lot of people have not. They don't know that all the countries of the world came together to agree on a common set of 17 goals to make our world a better place. Now, if I asked all of us now to agree on what kind of pizza we should order right now, we might not be able to do that. But all the countries of the world put aside their differences, came together for a common blueprint. We're supposed to reach these goals by 2030. And we are way off track. So we need football's reach to, first of all, tell people about the goals and how to achieve those goals. But we also need football entities to also practice what they preach and be sustainable as well. So just two really quick examples about how our members are helping in this area. In the Norwegian Football Association, for example, realized that when fans come to their games, that produces a lot of carbon emissions, which hurts our environment and then ultimately drives conflict and hurts peace. So in that sense, they are now working with partners to provide electric transportation to their games. They've started an awareness campaign to urge people to ride bikes to games. They're providing electric charging stations for electric vehicles as well. This is one way that football can help. Second example, my last example is just when I was in England last year, I was there for an anti-racism conference. And when we were there, we spoke with the Queen's Park Rangers, an English football club. And along with the University of Warwick, we were working on anti-racism workshops for the children that are in their football academies, which is a way, again, to use football to promote anti-racism, which again helps tackle conflict and helps build peace. So that's what Football for the Goals is all about. And I urge you to all learn more about it. Thank you.
Kash, can I take a prerogative on that and ask you to talk a little bit more? You talked a little bit in your introduction, but your campaign that you all started on rehydrating the earth is very much related to the SDGs and this bigger impact. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, just sort of wrap the panel together?
Yeah, sure. I think when we talk about water, you wouldn't necessarily link that right away to football, right? And it's a very interesting story. I'll quickly just tell you the background because it makes a lot more sense. President George Weah, currently head of state for Liberia, is a former icon, played for AC Milan, who Gooch played for as well. Thanks, Tarek. But also played for Chelsea and Monaco. And so he invited us over to Liberia. Obviously, Liberia has been through a 14-year genocide, and we brought together young ex-militia child soldiers for a peace tournament and peace-building resilience classroom workshops. And during that time in the compound, a truck drove by with water and rice. And when the water dropped off the truck, the children in that moment stopped playing and had a fight over the water. And that's for me in that minute, the penny dropped, because my wife, what's it going to do in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years? I came back, I started lobbying our board and partners, but no one really understood, again, the connection of football and water. Then we started doing some research and realized actually most NGOs globally in the sports sector are all focused on either education or sport. But actually, how can a child be educated or play sport if they haven't got the basics and the access to water? So then we came up with a campaign called Rehydrating the Earth, because as athletes, we know you have to rehydrate your bodies. Because if you don't rehydrate your body, you're not going to get very far. Similar to the earth, we have to rehydrate the earth because aquifers are drying up within the ground. So this is a very natural campaign on actually restoring the natural water cycle, which starts to bring everything back, because you can start building resilience, community engagement, trafficking, poverty, once you have water. So for us, water is life. And this is why Football for Peace is going right back to the basics and looking at water and then sports.
Kash, do you have a final question or a final yes/no challenge for our panelists here?
Well, I had a few, but I've actually honestly forgot them. So I don't know if the crowd have any questions. I know we have 5 minutes, so anyone feel free to ask any questions. Anyone on the panel?
Stand on up and talk loudly, I think.
Hi, first of all, thank you very much. I'm a student here, big football fan. I'm from Germany, so I'm going to call it football. Sorry about that. We just saw Leah Williamson, Lioness captain, speaking at the UN. The Women's Euro was a huge success. Women's World Cup as well, new tendency records. How are you going to include and ensure that women are also part of the project, especially because women play such a big role in the achieving of the Sustainable Development Goals at the UN? So I would love to learn a bit more about that, if you can answer that. Thank you.
Sure. Well, gender equality it's one of the sustainable development goals. So it's definitely something that we are pushing from our end. Through Football for the Goals, we work with a lot of women coaches. We work with a lot of initiatives to make sure that more girls are playing football when they're young. So this is definitely something that's very much on our radar. We were really happy when we worked with the Queen's Park Rangers in England, for example, to see all the women in their leadership as well. It's definitely something that we can push. I mean, some of these things are sometimes out of our hands. You might have seen the UN General Assembly just happened. There were very few women leaders. The UN cannot really tell countries who to elect. It's up to people like yourselves, up to voters, to make sure that women are entering leadership positions, including in the world of football.
I'll dovetail on that too, and going back to the athletes and point out Leah Williamson, Arsenal captain. So I'm a gunner over here. The primary thing that I think administrators have to look at, and somebody like in my role at the Players Association, how do we help elevate and lift the voices of athletes in an organized way? So we are very, very proud to be a part of a coalition of other sports unions that helps elevate the voices and commerce of WNBA players, women's soccer players, now NWSL players, who we've all brought in under the umbrella at the AFL-CIO to help not just with sustainable goals, but things in our universe that we can control around equal rights, equal pay. I think for those of you who are tennis fans, around the US Open, you saw there was a big celebration around equal pay. I think those are things that we have to be incumbent upon ourselves as administrators to be intentional about and really include the athletes in lifting up those opportunities for them.
Any more questions?
My name is Johan Jedro. I'm a senior in SIS. I'm also from Ivory Coast. So DDR was obviously a lot of impact in my life. My dad was also a professional soccer player in Ivory Coast. And one thing that he has always said is that, especially in America, soccer is kind of known as like this rich sport because of the costs, you know, for clubs, for equipment, things like this. How do you think Football for Peace can help bridge the economic inequality, specifically in America, for the predominantly disadvantaged communities?
Football for Peace or in general?
I mean, both, I guess.
Well, I'll speak on the Federation. Obviously, there has been a lot of talk about play to play and that model. And that's something that, you know, obviously it's a big issue, right? And it's not an issue that's going to be fixed overnight, but that's part of one of our pillars is promoting best playing environments. And part of the best playing environments is giving access to people that don't have access, whether it be because of financial means, whether it be because of location. So actively and intentively, we are trying to tackle that issue by partnering and speaking, having discussions with communities, with leaders to see the best way forward that we can use our country, which is our size is our strength and our weakness at the same time. And so how to use that as a positive catalyst moving forward where people don't fall through the cracks because of financial or geographic access. So this is definitely a topic of concern for the Federation specifically.
And just to add to that, with Football for Peace, we're working with the US Federation on this, is how Football for Peace can incorporate our MVP program, which will be rolled out across the US as a masterclass and support so no children will play and we'll give them access for free. So we'll be cutting across that.
And to piggyback off that as well, and I know we were speaking to this earlier, coming up the road, but it's a cultural thing too. It's definitely a culture thing in the sense of we got to integrate in the culture and certain areas that we at. And we spoke to it like in South Carolina. So we're going to be doing something where, if you want to speak to that a little bit of how we're going to be implementing in South Carolina, similar to
the plan on your question on the growth model is basically, this is our first one. So our flagship partnership, which the president is going to come and speak in a minute, Terry. But this partnership started in Baltimore. It's now become a capital region DMV project with AU. And the plan is, once we've got the flag here as a pilot program, the second one will be in Greenwood, South Carolina. And the plan is, and how do we link that across the Carolinas, North and South, and bringing them together with also Georgia. And that's working with Stars and Josh's personal foundation as well.
And maybe just to add, I mean, I think one of the things we want to get out of this partnership, and we'll hear a little bit more, I think, from an announcement later today, but part of this is really, really local. Of how we work with FFP to roll out the most valuable peacemaker MVP, right? Curriculum across DC and across Baltimore and Maryland. And so some of these local partnerships are also exactly where we want to invite students to get involved, role modeling, trainers, learning this. So I'm very optimistic about how we all contribute to this together.
Definitely brilliant.
More questions from the audience? Stand up. Don't be shy.
Don't be scared.
Al,
ahead.
yourself, yeah.
Yeah, my name is Al Jubas. I'm from Portland, Oregon, the home of the Portland Thorns ladies. Big time. The Portland Timbers, and we don't have an NFL team. But I gotta tell you, I think this is great. I'm a peace builder in many elements, but we need symbols of peace tied to sport. I don't know if you have one or planning one. The symbolism of the Air Force flying over a stadium in the NFL just makes me sick, to be honest. I think if you're with the NFL, I'd rather see peace symbols over those games in the military. If we're serious about peace and sport, then we need to image peace, not war or the military. And so I'd ask you to think about that. I don't know what's happening elsewhere in the world about the connection between violence and fun-loving sport, but I'd ask you all to think about it. I'm a Rotarian, and we're thinking about it too. So, thank you.
I would like to thank the men and women of the armed forces for keeping the peace around the world.
Yeah. So should we finish up with one more question and we'll go to our next announcement, or you wanted to jump in? Go for it.
No, I was just gonna make a little quick
Yeah.
observation.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask a question. So anybody here, we all thought about this, right? Have superpowers. All thought about what we want to do. We have a superpower, right? So I'm gonna ask, go ahead, give me your superpower. Tell me, what would be a superpower?
Ask his wife, not him.
She's saying, she's there. The question. The superpower would be a superpower.
I think it's connecting people.
Connecting people.
Yeah.
That would be a superpower for you. Connecting people.
Yeah.
I see Vanilla in the back. What's your superpower? Give me one. What would you want it to be like a superpower?
I'd like to fly.
Like to fly. Okay, like to fly. All right. Slady is in the front. Give me a superpower.
Well, I'm already a servant leader. I'd like to be a better one.
Servant leader. Okay. That's a superpower. Okay.
Problem solving.
Problem solving. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Controlling time.
Controlling time, telepathy. I heard that one. That was pretty cool. Like the night crawler just fly out, right? All right. So
How about a healer?
healer. Ooh, that's a good one. Healer. I like it. I like it. All right. So I'll say this, right? Someone asked me that question.
What's your
What is your superpower?
What you want to do?
What I want it to be. I would like to speak every dialect language in the world. 7,000 languages. Because if I can speak your language, I can be inside your culture. If I can be inside your culture, I can speak to you. Now I can relate back to someone else who doesn't know it. So now with that information, I'm able to touch everybody across the globe. Now with that across the globe, now let's take sports for example. Back in the Roman Empire, the Colosseum, everyone knows Colosseum, they use sport for gain. Political, economical, all of that brought people together. And the Roman Empire, they knew that if we don't have game and sport to give people something to look forward to, they would riot in the street. So they found the Colosseum, and here we are with the Olympic Games still today. So what I'm saying is sport resonates through time. It compels, it doesn't have an end date. It started and it still continues today. So how you bring that together? We have two of the biggest games, football and football, whether we're gonna see it or not. it touches 6 billion people. So with that being said, today, this is something that it ushers up inside of us. We all have this inside of us. We are part of that. So how to bring all that together as one in this superpower economic that we're in right now. I mean, these are the world's most pressing issues, and I think sport is right up top of that.
Although the math problem solving one would be helpful, because I was terrible at that. So there you go.
There you go.
Thank you, Josh. You've left everyone with a lot to think about. I'll pass to Dean Hayder for the next part of this panel.
Great, thank you. Well, let's thank everybody of our panelists and their insights and being here with us today.
Should we stay here?
Yeah, we can stay here. Let's stay here. I think before we close, I'd like to invite Terry Hasseltine from the Maryland Sports Commission up for an announcement. If you would introduce yourself a little bit and welcome.
Terry,
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Terry Hasseltine. I am the Executive Director of the Maryland Sports Commission and President of the Sport and Entertainment Corporation of Maryland. We have the dubious honor of crossing all planes of all sports, and I think I would be remiss if I didn't recognize and ask a gentleman who's in the room with us, who's one of the best tennis players in the world, who transcends that sport, to also add to the conversation. So Tiago, how does this conversation play into tennis?
Well, first off, thanks for having me, guys. It's an honor to be here, hearing what y'all had to say. Incredible stuff you guys are doing. So congrats to all you guys. But yeah, definitely, even in an individual sport, there's nothing like sports. It brings everyone together. You know, all kinds of people, all kinds of races, doesn't really matter. And to ultimately try to do something greater, right? It's not about you. It's always about the next generation and how can we create a better space for them and all the people coming up, and also make our sport better, you know, for everyone, and, you know, fans, you know, administration, players, everything. So I'm happy to be doing what I'm able to do, bring different demographics to the game. Hopefully when I'm done, there's a lot more people like me playing the game. And ultimately, I have a space where I give the game to be more accessible for people like me. So again, what you guys are doing is incredible, and hopefully I can do some of these things on a smaller scale in my sport. So congrats again, guys.
Thank you, Tiago. Appreciate it. And the reason why I wanted to connect the dots between football for peace and tennis is sports is the global underwriter here. And so from our perspective, when we were bidding on the World Cup for 2026 in Baltimore, Maryland, and with our partners down in DC, we sought out a way, how can we be bigger than the bid? And when we said we want to be bigger than bid, 2026 is going to come and go, but football for peace and how the impact the games and the sports that we play and love has to live on. And we have to set a standard for the next generation to have a platform that they can move forward on. And we knew that the economic vitality and all the things that the World Cup will leave behind as legacy components, but we wanted to find the best one that gave us inroads to diplomacy, gave us inroads to getting into underserved communities, but also had growth tentacles to grow into other things like Rehydrate the Earth and other platforms. And so we reached out, actually in combination, we were reaching out to each other in combination because our committee, you know, through Oguchi was on our committee and others knew Kash and the team at Football for Peace. So there was an automatic commonality of the things that we were trying to achieve within our bid and things that we could do that were well beyond the game for many, many years to come. So we made a commitment with Football for Peace that we're in it for the long haul. Win, lose, or draw the bid, you know, as you all know, we didn't win the bid. However, we are going to be impacted by the bid, and we're going to be impacted by the game in the DMV region. And we knew that if we created the right fundamental space through Football for Peace and some of the other initiatives that we created, like the International Football Development Initiative, where we've gone over to Africa, create partnerships and relationships with various countries over in Africa as we were building our place in the World Cup bid. We also created the Let's Play Initiative, which is an after-school program giving kids in school systems in Baltimore, in the region, a place to engage and activate after school instead of just being latchkey kids and going home and having no tools and resources. So it's laying the fundamental principles that connects with Football for Peace. So our biggest thing is we started this campaign, we started this effort. So I'm here today to tell you that we are putting $75,000 per year into the initiative in the DMV region for the foreseeable future.
That's amazing, Terry. Thank you so much. That's
But we're committed to this in the long haul. Josh, thank you for your leadership, Oguchi, and the panel today. It is this type of platform in the partnership with American University and our partnership with those who make up our steering committee that will allow us to grow this in the DMV region. And obviously, I have to focus in on the Maryland region, in the Maryland part of this equation, or maybe Wes might get mad at me. But at the end of the day, this is a family. The DMV has its own acronym and its own initials for a reason, because we do collaborate all the time, whether it's transportation issues, whether it's fiscal issues, whether it's peace issues, we're always collaborating. And so we want to be the flag stick in the sand that says football for peace is one of the things that we're going to drive for many, many years to go. And we're going to do it with great partners in universities like American University and others. And we're hoping others follow your lead. And then we'll continue to grow this thing. And next thing you know, it will be a global US initiative. And it will then transcend into the other Americas and then the other continents and so on and so
Terry,
forth.
just to add to that, remember the American dream is real. So this, although we've been, working with the State Department Ambassador Sales, who kicked off the program in the UN in 2020, I think 2020. I really believe the power we have in this room, that this will truly become a global movement, and the programs we're doing globally, it will, as you said, grow from the DMV and make a real difference in the world. And the ripple effect starts from today. So we really invite everyone to be part of this.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. What an amazing Kickstarter commitment. And just saying, Governor Wes's mom is an AU alumni. So if he gets upset, you just.
So there is, there's one of those other alumni.
Kash, last words, and I'll thank people and we'll go into our next
Thank you so
event.
much. If we could, again, I'm really humbled to be here with everyone and all the panelists and secretary and everyone that's been able to achieve this. And like I said, we're really excited and to create this ripple effect to create change. And it would be great if we could get a picture with the panelists and with everyone coming up here.
And so before the picture, just to say thank you. And I want to personally thank Kash, Brenda, our distinguished panelists and guests, and all of you for joining us today. Want to thank especially Sarah, Devin, Emily, and their team at Football for Peace, as well as our SIS colleagues, Lee, Lexi, Alice, Kay, and Kelly. It's not on my notes, but I got to say it once again. I got to thank our super powered connector, Shahal Khan, for bringing us all together. What you guys might not know is Shahal, this past spring, founded the Shahal M. Khan Cyber and Economic Security Institute with a $5 million donation to AU. And when we talk about economic security, we talk about safety and security. All of these things matter. And we see how they connect the dots for peace. So thank you again, Shahal, Claudia. So thrilled to have you as our community. We will do pictures. And we will invite you after this to join us on the quad for an opportunity to kick a ball with the pros. And after that, you can return to our reception outside this room. And I would not take this lightly because I understand there are goalposts out there that were nearly politically impossible to get raised for this. So we want to show that they're used and make the most of them so it happens over and over again. So thank you to everyone. Pictures and kicking and throwing balls.